So how did it all start for Chris Monroe? How was it like growing up in DC, Maryland, and when did basketball come into play for you?
Basketball came in early. I mean, I fell in love with basketball early. I grew up in them Jordan days, when everybody shut down and watched the NBA playoffs and, try to go out and emulate what Jordan did. I was a Barkley fan too. But yeah, so I mean, our neighborhood, everybody used to go out, play ball. We used to go to Lamont Riggs. We used to go to Rolling Crest. We used to go to Green Meadows, Langley Park. Just going anywhere where the bump was to, just hoop. We was outside all day. And so from that standpoint, I fell in love with it. And as I got a little older, you know, that's when the competition started coming in and, us wanting to make a name for ourselves. It was more of a source of pride than anything else.
Besides basketball, were there sports that you played growing up, like middle school, elementary? Was it only basketball, or was it, did you dibble and dabble in some other sports?
As young, back then when they had boys and girls clubs, I dibbled and dabbled in everything. Football, basketball, baseball. But, in our neighborhood, everybody, even the older boys and the old heads, I like to call them, they were all hoopers.
Mhm.
So we would go to the courts, they would kick us off, we would try to get on, that whole thing. And I just fell in love with it there, and you started getting, noticed as that's that little young kid hoop. From there, you just seen you associated a source of pride with people associating with you, with what you could possibly be and what you could do. And so from there, that's where it just took off. We were me and my one of my good friends, Ronnie. We just honed and spent almost all of our time since we got out of school to the street lights came on, and even then, if the courts had street lights, we was out there. So yeah, that's really where it started.
You attend good counsel.
hmm
Um, there, how tall were you as a freshman when you got there?
I grew fast, so I kind of grew, and a lot of my friends would be like, if you see Chris today, he was the same height when he was a freshman, and I didn't grow anymore, right? So yeah, so I actually got lucked up. The assistant coach Tim McKenna, he was doing he was working part time at Rolling Crest Community Center, seeing me and my good friend Ronnie. Um, my AAU program, Silver Spring Blue Devils, was associated with Springbrook, right?
Mhm.
So you had guys like Treon Ridges and all those guys that were up that way in that Silver Spring area. So my freshman year, I didn't spend all 4 years at the council. My freshman year, I went to Springbrook, ended up playing varsity there behind Joe Salvi and those group of guys up there. Left there my freshman year, went over to, and then that's when I met Tim McKenna. He saw me at Rolling Crest Community Center, and then he offered me a scholarship to go to Good Counsel. And from there, a few of my AAU teammates followed me there. Guys like AJ Harris, Roger Mason. So AJ Harris was at Murray, and Roger was at Sidwell, and so and one of my other good buddies, Earl Hunt, who played with the Blue Devils, he was already there at the council, and so it was kind of like I felt like Ray LeBron, like you got your friends, like come play, like Roger, you live in Gaithersburg, why not? Why you going to DC? AJ, you going down to DC, why not? And so that's how we ended up building our team up at Good Counsel. They came and we met up our our sophomore year, and then it was all histories.
Okay, so it was kind of like you ain't start out there, but you got your guys with you. Went
Uh,
down to good counsel, and I'm looking at your accolades. It's quite a few. Street and Smith honorable mention, All American, MVP of the Charlie Weber Invitational, All County, honorable mention for the All Metro. During your high school days, what went into all that? What was the work that you put in, and you know how did it manifest, and to you being that person on the court?
I mean, really, it was like I said, just how you was growing up and really the style of play I had was really based off my environment, right? So bulldogish by any means, it's just from your environment. You take on that attitude when you play, and so that's what I carried with me, and so that's what went into going out and playing in that AAU circuit, and at an early age, even before I even got to high school, I had a taste of winning, right? So I won, went out to nationals, 11-0. We won our national championship there. Then we came back and, we placed second and third. We placed second at 12, third at 13, and then we went back at 14 and win. And then that's when you went to high school. So for me coming in, it was more so like a source of pride. Like I've seen the best talent in the country, and so and most of the best talent came from here, And so for me, it was like, it was a no-brainer. Like there's no limit to what can be done. And I took a source of pride of being on one of the best teams and also one of the best players in the area. And so, when you get to the high school level, you got guys that are older than you. And so you're a ninth grader playing on varsity. So you're playing up, with guys that are 2, 3, 4 years older than you. So you're making a staple. And for me, getting those honor mentions that a lot of our guys were growing up with chasing. You wanted to be all Met. I was all Met. You wanted to be first team all first team. I was first team all these. You wanted to it was a source to make the Capital Classic back then. I got MVP, right? You wanted to be a top 100 player or a top 60 player. I was one of those. You know what I mean? So it was like a source of pride. Like you were always measuring up, and it was different. It's funny because when I tell people the story, it's like, hey, we used to every one time my homies played, whether they was at High Point, Northwestern, whether they was at Dunbar, we would pick up the page and we'd be all looking at each other like, what you do? You know what I'm saying? You go to that score, you see that
Yeah.
colleges, and you go down and check, well, what he did, what he do at Wilson, what my man do here, you know what I'm saying? And you kind of compare yourselves off of that and always, kind of go that way. So it was really a source of pride for me, to always state my claim and always to be noted as one of the best, in the area. So I strive for that, and I was able to achieve some things that that still hang with me today. Even helping the council to their first ever national ranking USA Today, and us being in the top 5 in the country. That's something to hang your hat on. You know what I mean? And so, yeah.
So when you go on to play college ball, you choose GW.
Mm.
What was your recruiting process like? Was GW the school, like the only school, or was there others in the mix? So what went into your choice?
So going into that summer season of uh, AAU, I went down, and I remember because Yao Ming was down there, so I went down to the Nike Showcase. Well, I went down to the Nike Showcase, and then there was also the Peach Jam. Those were the two top Nike, because I was in the Nike circuit, not the Adidas circuit. Those were the two top tournaments. So I went down to Peach Jam, and I remember me and a good buddy of mine, Omar Weaver, who actually went to Coolidge, we killed it down there, right? It was in Georgia time. I flew from Georgia and I went down to Florida. And that's where things kind of changed for me. Prior to that, I had a lot of mid majors, but when I went down there, I opened a lot of eyes. I played against guys like Casey Sanders from Duke, and you got all these Duke guys down there. You got all these ACC guys down there, which was one of the top conferences back then. And I was killing them. I was averaging something like 35 down there, and I was putting up numbers against big teams. And you look up in the stands, you see Coach K, Tubby Smith, Dean, you see Dean's, you see all these coaches, and you're like, damn, and I put on a show. The questions that a lot of coaches had at the time was, he doesn't really play a position. He's a tweener. Like, where do we put him? He's undersized for an ACC big. He don't necessarily read the game as a point guard, but he could put the ball in the basket. And that's one thing that, one of the reasons why I probably didn't take opportunities that came higher. So after the Nike Showcase, I came back, played in Charlie Weber. Charlie Weber was a big Maryland tournament. After that, I played Joe Forte at UNC, 5-star recruit going in there. And we ended up beating him, putting on a showing out there in front of, the whole Maryland staff. What came from that then, Maryland started coming after me. But by that time at Charlie Weber, I had made up my mind because I had met Tom Penders in person. And Tom Penders was coming from Texas at that point in time. And he was known as a guards coach. And he came to me and he was like, hey, Chris, you're my first recruiting class. You know what I mean? We want you, and we want one of your other friends, Sir Valiant Brown. Sir Valiant Brown was killing it on the with Team Assault at that time with Curtis Malone on the Adidas side. So they came and got who they wanted. And they were like, we really want to, let y'all go. I'm a fast break coach. I'm a guard coach. You know what I mean? I'm going to hold you responsible as a man. You're either going to do it or you can't do it. I said, okay, cool. One thing that allowed me to do, because I always saw myself as going someplace local. I had offers from Marquette at West Virginia. I did home visits with Marquette, West Virginia. Couple other schools. I had at least, I don't even know what division, what league those guys were in at the time. But Marquette, West Virginia, teams I did, the GW. You had the Marylands. You had local ones. And I always told my mom, and I was like, well, I knew one thing, that I was going to stay local. My dad didn't fly, so that means my dad, who always came to my games, wouldn't have been able to come to my games. My grandmother wouldn't have been able to come to my games. My mom, she would have traveled anywhere to come see me. But then I also had the neighborhood, right? So I'm home. I catch the metro up to see me. You know what I mean? It was nothing for me to look up in the stands and see 20 to 30 people of my folks from the neighborhood just popping up and seeing me. You know, my teammates were kind enough to give me all their tickets at the time, but you know, it was things like that that made me want to stay home and be able to do what I need to do from home. I thought I could make it to the league, and also with Tom Penders, he had coach guys with the pros. He had a network. He had proven to put guys in the NBA, and so with that, I got the way I looked at it. GW was like, well, GW at the time with Coach Jarvis was going to the tournament every single year, right? They had guys like Shantae Rogers, Mike King. They had, they were coming off of Yinka Dare, and they had a bunch, so they had a lot of guys, and made a lot of presence. So I was like, look, well, one of my biggest things that I wanted to make sure is that I played right away. I ain't believe in sitting behind nobody. If I went to Maryland, I was told that I would have to wait, the typical, you got 2 years, da, da, da. At that point in time, especially because I wasn't your first choice, right? So I was Penner's first choice. And the next school was Georgetown. Georgetown at that point in time didn't have any scholarship for me, wanted me to go a JUCO route, or at that time do another year. I was, nah, I'm ready to go now. I mean, I'm Big East. I feel like I make my mark in the Big East too. So that didn't work out. And so then, I had other schools, and GW came along, and I was like, new coach, God play, fit my style. I'm gonna stay local. They're in the tournament, so I can get to the biggest stage. They're playing a good league. Atlanta 10 at the time was the top 5 league. You had guys like Marcus Camby, Katino Mobley, all coming out of the A10. So it was like we had guys making the league as guards, and it was a no-brainer. I mean, I'm gonna go tear this league up, get to the tournament, and then make my mark. And so, yeah.
I noticed you mentioned that part of you had the confidence right as a senior. Like you knew you wanted to play as a freshman. And off the rip, you averaged 16.7 boards as a true freshman. What was that? Because normally freshmen, it's a transition process. It's a process of going high school to playing guys who, in their 20s. How was that? How did you find success so early?
It was partly because I was playing grown men my whole life, right? So I never really played my age. I always played up. I had big brothers like, like Steve Francis, and you got the Key Veenes of the world, and you got guys that, Darren McClintons, and these guys, Treon Bridges, all these guys that came before me that were hooping. Now we're all in the gym, we're working out together. I was like, if I can compete with these guys, then especially someone going to like high majors and stuff like that. What are these dudes on my team really, really talking about? And so from that standpoint, it was I could play on any level. That's why I felt like I could play right away. And so from there, I was just like, yeah, ain't nobody, even when I came to a team, it was like, he's all right, but he ain't, I'm gonna take his starting spot. Or, when we played different teams, I was like, there, he's cool, but he ain't what I'm seeing back home and the talent level that we had back home. So there's nobody that I could guard at that point in time that was as shifty as Steve Francis, or, who got a jumper that's on like Brian Chase, or even for Joe Forte at that moment. So at that time, there was nobody like that I can, the guys that older boys that I was used to playing with, that I was looking at in the A10 or in front of me, that was like Jason Muscuri. Like these guys, when they were all going pro at the time, and these are guys that I consider my big brothers. Like if I can guard them, compete with them, I remember being in high school and college, and going to a workout where you had Elton Brand and Steve Francis, and then I look at the high school talent. You got DeMar Johnsons. Like I played against the number one players, DeMar Johnsons, the Rodney Whites, the level amount of talent that came out there. You're not, and I was able to do my thing against them. And they're going. Keith went to Kentucky and started. Joe went to North Carolina and started. Rodney White went on, and you talk about lottery picks at that point in time. So what talent am I going to see in front of me that's going to make me be like, oh, I can't perform at this level? Now I've seen the best, and I proved myself against the best. My teammate Roger Mason went to UVA. You know what I mean? So what is there? These are your people that you consider to be great, right? And I've seen it, so you're not gonna show me nothing different.
You just touched on your early success. How were you able to maintain it? Because you go from averaging 16 as a true freshman, and then you continue that. It's not just a 1 year thing. It's not like teams figure you out or anything.
Mm.
I believe 20.21 junior year around
Mm-hmm.
that, and 20 again as a senior.
Mm.
Um, what was like that your progression from year to year, and how did you kind of maintain and stay the course?
Well, I mean, a lot had to do with it. Wasn't just talent, right? It's understanding your teammate and being a teammate. I had my freshman year at GW. I had a teammate who averaged 24 points. His freshman year almost led the nation in scoring, be one of the first to ever do it. And I still was able to do what I needed to do. That was not because me and him and everybody said, "How did y'all play together?" You as a freshman averaged 16, he averaged 24. And I was just like, I understood his game. So I not only did I knew I looked at the game and say, how can I make an impact on his game, knowing what he's going to do, knowing knowing what Mike King's going to do, know what these guys going to do. How can I still affect the game and still put points on the board and be effective? And that's no different. So it was my viewpoint on the game, setting small goals for myself, making sure that I covered those and going from there. And doing one of the things too, like I say, is making sure that I was doing what was needed to stay on the court for the coach, right? When I first got to GW, my height now at 230, and I was used to banging and being down there, and people was like, "Oh yeah, power guard." That's where the coin power guard came from. There's a lot of people that have taken that afterwards, but I was the original power guard. And so, from that standpoint, um, I just looked at it like I had to lose weight. I had to be able to guard the guards now at this point. So, I mean, my coach, he said, "Chris, you ain't going to stop on step on the floor until you lose some of this weight and be able," because my back was hurting. So I did the little things necessary for me to stay on the floor. And I understood that a lot has to do with this skill level, right? And what you can do, ball handling and everything else. And a lot of people would tell you, man, Chris didn't have crazy handles. Chris didn't have a lockdown jump shot. But Chris, he was efficient. Like, he knew where his spots were on the floor and he killed it, right? And I was able to do that consistently because I knew one of the two things: that IQ, understanding my opponent, and then two, being in shape to wear down my opponent. So yeah, you may be able to play good defense for me on a half, but you ain't gonna be able to do it all four. You know what I mean? So it's evaluating the game that way that kind of helped me sustain. And then year over year, going from my freshman year to my sophomore year, our team changed. That dynamics changed. And, every year just progression, getting used to the talent out there. By the time my junior year happened, the team had went through, a change. We lost Savannah. He declared for the draft. We lost our coach. There was some things going on in GW at the time that really derailed what I thought could have been really success for me, because I had to start over. You had a coach came in, Carl Hobbs at the time. He did replace with Coach Brodus, who's now at Morgan State. And, me and Carl Hobbs didn't see eye to eye. You know what I mean? But he felt like he had to play me. And then, oftentimes there was threats of, next year, your senior year, this ain't how it's gonna go, and so ended up having to work through that. But Coach Brodus, he kind of, the reason why I stayed, because at that point in time too, when our head coach left GW, Tom Pennis, and the guy replacing Carl Hobbs came in, Coach Bray, who recruited me when he was at Delaware, was asking me to come to Notre Dame, right? So I had a choice, but that would have made me have to leave my family, go out there with Indiana to be there, right? Sit out a year, and I wasn't going to do all that. And I still felt like if I was able to keep some of the recruits that were coming in, we could win. Because by then I seen what the league looked like, and now I'm a upperclassman at that point in time in this league, right? So guys like when T.J. Thompson was coming in, T.J. Thompson came in, having a good point guard who understood the game that I played with since I was young, helped out a lot. And then, the pieces that came along. So, yeah. So it's just really just understanding. What helped me with my progression was understanding what the coaches wanted, how they wanted, and how to be effective in their offensive system. At the same time, making sure that I understood my teammates, understood what my teammates, their games, right? So know your personnel. I know what he could do, he do. I knew that if he got the ball, he gonna shoot. That's his spot. Go get position for rebound. I knew that, this guy running out the floor, he going too fast. I know he gonna miss his layup if it's contested. So I'm gonna just go beat him down and be the second one to get a tip dunk or something along those lines. So just understand the game that way kind of helped me be consistent in that process.
But being the all-time leader
Mm.
in scoring for your school,
Mm-hmm.
in history,
Mm-hmm.
and how you did it, take me through that. What does that mean to you, and how, and when you broke the record,
Mm.
What was going through your mind?
I said, to be honest with you, I didn't even know I was close to breaking the record. My goal at that time was like, especially my senior year, what do I need to do to showcase, to get the invites to go to these, NBA camps so I can start this process over improving myself, right? Because I felt like if you ain't seen it by now, I've done it on every single level. I did it at AAU. I did it in high school, right? Every place that people say, well, he ain't gonna be able to do that because his game isn't, it's not traditional. I did it. Undersized and not underdogs. I had that underdog mentality in me. And so, I didn't know I was gonna to break the record um until the senior the SID came along and he was like, hey, you're about 100 points away from breaking this 50 or 60-year-old record that GW's had, and I had no idea about it. So then you started seeing the press about it, about how close I am to breaking it, to kind of countdowns, and so to this day, there was a lot of there's some people that I would say um, um, didn't want to see me do it, which motivated me even more. You know what I mean? And so, but to be honest with you, that wasn't a factor in my game. I never looked at the game like I need to score X. Right? I went in there like, how can I help my young team win? And I had a lot of young talent on my team. I had Pop Smith-Sponsor, NBA, Mike Hall, NBA. You know what I mean? So I had a lot of guys coming in that had talent that I wanted to, one, make sure that we had an opportunity to win. You know what I mean? I mean, we competed with national teams. We just couldn't get over that hump. And, so I was hoping for a miracle and maybe make it to them. But yeah, so I didn't know until that last game. I was at UMass and then I broke it on a free throw. And it was a game that I was actually sick. Like I had flu. People call it my Michael Jordan game, where I came out 20-some points and, but even at that point, I wasn't even looking at it. I wasn't, thinking about the record. And now that it's broken, it's like, damn, I look back now as we speak today, 20 years removed from it. And it's been 22, 20 plus years since and it's still holding, right? I'm pretty sure one day somebody will break it, especially now with these kids want to be able to stay in college a lot longer, right? So, and you're going to have a lot of kids a lot older playing. So you'll probably get that. But like I said, it's a special feeling to have, and for my sons, for them to be able to, go there and then they hear about it, they see it. My daddy owns this record. My dad is all time. He's one of 400 players that ever played in the NCAA to ever score over 2,000 points. Guys like myself, Juan Dixon, we're all in this club, and I didn't even know that until you start reading about it, and they're like, oh, damn, that's cool. Like I didn't know, but that's not really what I played the game for. I played the game for my family. A way to put my family in a better spot. Did it for those that a good friend of mine who got paralyzed when we were in 10th grade. Realizing our dreams, because that's where we always wanted to be in the NBA. So I played for a lot of people on my back, and it wasn't just me. So yeah, but it's still a good feeling to be like, when people ask, "Are you still?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm still holding on." So
Now going on to after college,
mm,
you mentioned how your dream was always to get to the league, get to the
mm.
NBA. What was the, I guess, process of, working out for teams and trying to get to that ultimate goal?
Well, it started kind of early going into my senior year. A buddy of mine, Roger Mason, my teammate in high school, at that point in time, he was entering the draft. And so we would work out the Ritz Carlton downtown. Some scouts and some people were able to get his early eyes on me. I remember the guy who was actually doing the workouts was Bernie Bickerstaff at the time, who ended up later being the Wizards coach, and his son. And me being with guys, Kevin Braswell were doing workouts at the time. So all these guys that were going in the league at the time to see where I was at, what I needed to do. I got a year to kind of prep and get ready. And so with that, I was able to meet people and they kept the eye on me through the process of going to the league. And then once I was done, I remember getting the invite to go to Portsmouth. Went down Portsmouth, showed well down there. Me and Travis Watson from UVA was on the team, and then got invited to summer camp with the Washington Wizards. Did that, but what tricked me up was I remember. So they called me in for workouts. I remember this is June. So I went with my first workout. My first workout was with point guards. So I had Luke Rittenauer, long career, Steve Blake, long career, Kurt Heinrich, long career. So this is who I'm with. I did a great job in it. So I was only in it supposed to be for one workout. I get a call the next day, or after the day, and at that point in time, Wes Unseld was the GM. Told my agent, we love Chris. We seeing something in him. We want him to come back. We want to see him work out with the two guards, right? So they brought me in, and my workout partner at that point in time, they were coming in, they were evaluating Dwayne Wade. So it was me and Dwayne Wade going head to head in there. I did well in there to the point where Wes Unseld was like, he's on summer league team. Cool, I'm excited. I'm like, boom, in there. I'm started. Look, all I need is a fair shake at this. And then, my agent, a couple of days later, calls and says, "Hey, I got something to tell you. Uh, Wes Unseld been relieved of his duties, and the coach has been relieved of his duty. They're bringing in Ernie Gruntfield, and the new coach is Eddie Jordan. Cool. Am I still? They're trying to renege on your. So they were like, but Eddie Jordan and held on the word. My agent did his thing, put me in the camp. So I was on Wizard Summer League, and then after I did the Wizard Summer League, I bounced over to. I didn't get a guaranteed contract, so at that point in time, they were talking about you can get paid for veterans camp, and my agent, who had players in the NBA and overseas, we had options. Well, if I wasn't going to get the guaranteed money, I didn't want to be put in a position where I'm wasting. I don't get overseas until I have. So at that point in time, I decided to go overseas. I wanted to see what overseas was like. So went over there, came back for a quick minute because I had an offer to play with Larry Kristoviak, who ended up being the Milwaukee head coach, I think, at the time. Later on, because it was the CBA at the time. He wanted me bad. At that point in time, he was at ODU, I believe. He was the coach at ODU. And so he came back, and I saw how much the CBA guys were playing. And at that point in time, I had guys like Smush Parker on my team. So he ended up playing for the Lakers. It was an opportunity, but I was just like, I can't pay for this money. So I ended up going back overseas, and that's how I got started. And I always felt like, if they really want you, they're going to come and get you. No different than what they did with Patrick Beverly or any of these overseas players. If you make enough noise, they'll come and get you. And,
Played in Greece, Ukraine, France.
Mm-hmm.
What was it like adjusting to not only on the court, like that style of play overseas? What was it like adjusting to the lifestyle of, being, away from home? You talked about how you were close knit in terms of, with even your decision going to college, you wanted to make sure you were, by family.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that transition into, leaving the country?
I mean, for me, it was like, so now you got to relocate to go get the bag, right? And I was talking good money. And so I was like, man, one thing my mama never did was she never got to see the world. Well, now you get to see the world. So everywhere I go. You get a stamp in your passport. You come stay out there, get the experience. And that was my mindset. I knew my dad wasn't going to travel, but at that point in time, he seen me through my levels, see me all the way through, senior day, my successes. If I get a chance to come back and play there, he just wasn't gonna get on that plane. And then my friends, at that point in time, you were yeah, they had no issues. They were like, yeah, well, everybody would come and fly over. They'll stay at my house. You know what I mean? Drop their bags and do what they want to do. So it wasn't the full homie effect, but I had a goal. And one thing I knew was that basketball has a time limit on it, right? Your body can only go for so long. And so I wanted to make, if I'm going to have a 10-year career, I'm going to make as much money as I can before I have to come back into the work life. And so that's what I did.
What was some of the, ups and downs? I would say the adjustments, like what
food being an adjustment, how their day-to-day life. So, a lot, I would tell a lot of people I was blessed because I got to go play the game of basketball on somebody else's dime, right? So I lived in Europe and they paid for my house, they paid for my car, they paid me a salary. I played the game I love. You can't beat that. But you also had to live as the people that when stores closed down, it closed down. The food was different, I remember one of the things when I was in Italy, it fascinated me that, stores would close down like at 11:30, 12, 1 o'clock and don't open back up to 2. And I'm like, the grocery store is closed. Like, just imagine Safeway being closed. And if you didn't grab nothing beforehand, you ain't got nothing, right? So I was like, I had to go to the highway to go grab me snacks. You know what I mean? So it's one of those things like, man, this is different. But then I come to see the value in it, right? Because I would see my teammates and their families, the older guys with their families, being with their kids and walking, having lunches with their grandparents. I was like, damn, that's something that the U.S. should adopt. So I went to sum it up. I went overseas with an open mind. I went like, this is dope. Like, there's certain things I like, the way they eat the food, how Italians never rushed it. You had to go through a full course meal. They never rushed it. Me, I was like, I'm trying to get out of here, get back to playing my games, or trying to get home and get on the phone. And it's like, nah, nah, nah. So dinner that would start at 8 and into like 10:30, 11. You know what I mean? And I was just like, I ain't got time for this. But then over time, I understood the value in it. You know what I mean? And the language barrier, trying to communicate about what you want and things. And it's just like, hey, um, you can try to force your will on people, or you can kind of assimilate and understand the world you're in, because you're no longer in their world. And a lot of my teammates would tell me, like, a lot of Americans try to come over here and try to say, why aren't we doing this? You know what I mean? Instead of just being like, yeah, all right, cool. Like, all right, like if that's what we're doing, that's what we're doing. And I think that's where a lot of guys don't make it overseas, because they can never make that adjustments. And it kind of looks at it's kind of disrespectful to the team's culture. And depending on the coach and the management you have, they're looking at you as, hey, can you be one of us? Can you assimilate to us? We're not going to assimilate. We'll go get another American, right? So if you can't really fit into that, and then once you do, it feels home. Like, I still have friends to this day that, we talk, and if I go back there, it's love.
How was it like transitioning into a newer space in terms of like switching careers?
That's the
That
hard
life
spot.
after basketball.
That's the hardest part, because you got to remember, if for those athletes that graduate college, you got a degree that you haven't used. I played 10 years in 10 years. So what is your degree worth, right? And a lot of them don't really look at it from a standpoint of the way where I started looking at it. Like, I was thinking about, I actually had an idea, like, all right, I wanted to get in real estate, because when I was playing overseas, I was buying properties. I liked the game of Monopoly. Monopoly was one of those things that kind of had me pissed. I was like, okay, I'm investing money. I'm gonna buy here. I put myself on a budget. I would save. I would try to pick up X, Y, and Z, get the little things that I want. A lot of athletes don't think about that over there. They think their career is never going to end, and so they enjoying the lifestyle. They're getting money for the first time, and they really um, don't think about that incoming, or prep themselves for the end, either by saving or start to look at getting into different fields, or have an idea what they're going to do afterwards. Because I tell people all the time, I say, you could have $1 million stacked up after you're done playing on a low end. And if your lifestyle is $10,000 to $20,000 a month, and some of these guys got car notes covering multiple mortgages, a baby mama, and you look up, you spending $20,000 a month, and living as if you were in the league, because some of these dudes do that. You look up, and you already spend 100 plus every year, and bad investments. You take some of that money, make an investment. You're looking at, yeah, you don't have that kind of money after 5, 6 years. And then also the kicker is that you never transition into a opportunity, or a job that could supplement or help with that, so that you can build in that career. So a lot of them just come home and they get into these different deals, and they don't have anything, no healthcare, they don't have anything. So a lot of that, that was one of the biggest transitions. I had a plan when I retired. I was like, I'm gonna go back. I always wanted to be. I love business. I love real estate as an entrepreneur, but I always wanted to be in the business of sports. So before I even retired, I met with my AD. Said, hey, listen, I want to come back, be a part of the GW program. What did that do for me? One, that offered me healthcare, right, whatever I needed. Two, most universities have a program where, if you work at the university, that they'll pay for your schooling, right? Cool. I wanted to go back. I wasn't a great undergrad student. Like, I was one of those players that would tell you C's get degrees, right? Which it did. But at the next level, I had to prove to people in the corporate world that, hey, my excuse for playing ball as a student athlete is over, right? So what could I do as in the educational field, or when I put my mind to it? And that was one of the things. So put my mind to it, went and got my master's, had a 3.7, 3.5, whatever I had at that point in time, graduated with that. So now I can go into an office, or I can go to one of the alums and say, see, like, now I don't have these early morning practices. I'm not traveling on it. I'm not fatigued. Like, I put my mind to it, and I was able to do it. And, also at the same time, I also had my first son. So I retired around 2013, 14. I had my first boy that's out there bouncing the ball right now in 2015. So being a new parent, having responsibilities, taking care of Asian parents, right? Trying to get your life situated so that you have dividends of passive income coming in, building a career, and also going to school. It's a lot, and a lot of guys don't have the support, one, or the mentors to make that transition. They just come back and they're like, what do I do now? And a lot of them go into coaching. I didn't want to go into coaching because I knew that a lot of coaching these days, just like with anything, right, is based on your network. I wasn't, like I told you before, when I left GW, I wasn't great with our coaches that, and they came from the Calhoun coaching tree. My coach at the time, Penders, at that point I think he wasn't coaching at the time. So who am I going to go coach with? I need recommendations to coaches, right? So, from that standpoint, I didn't like that having that on me. I wanted to go learn, have a degree that will always get you a job, but then learn transferable skills. So the sports of business, I learned about sales, went through sales training. Sales training if you can learn sales training, it helps you sell yourself. It helps you sell whatever product you want to sell. So that was beneficial. Marketing, right? Learning marketing strategies. You got to learn to market yourself. Along with you can market anything. You can market season tickets, or you marketing whatever product you can. So all these were transferable skills that I could go into any kind of, or to apply for any kind of job and be like, these are what I have years of experience in. This is what I went to school for, and kind of go from there. And so I wanted to always have a backup plan in that way.
If you could tell a young Chris Monroe, give a young Chris Monroe advice, something you know now to help yourself when you was younger, what would you say?
I would say while I was playing in the summertime, even though I would come back and work out, find a CEO, reach out to an alumni and shadow them. At that point in time, I didn't need money, right? So it's not money that I need. Really, I would have did a better job networking with some of the premier alum at GW and just say, hey, I don't want money, internship. I just want to mirror you. If I got whatever I got to do, I got to carry it. Like I want to be a rookie, as they like to say. I just want to mirror that. And then also at that point in time, by mirroring somebody that's successful at that kind of level, they see your intentionality. They also know that, if they need me here at this time or that time, I'm on time. So a lot of things, a lot of benefits of being an athlete, or what a lot of people look for and like hiring athletes, is because we're disciplined. We have to get up in the morning, whether it's boxing, football, basketball. You're training at 5 a.m., sweating, running. CEOs get up at that time, right? So they respect that. You also have to push through. You got to deal with adversity, right? Dealing with adversity. You also have to perform under pressure, right? Spotlight on you. I'm there. You have to earn your spot. Same thing in the corporate structure. You got to put in that work to get elevated, be seen, right? So all these things, that intangibles that athletes already have built into them, I think they just need to show people that a lot earlier. So you may have alumni that may know you, but they only know you as an athlete. They don't know you as with your personality and your grit and your grind, to the point that what made you who you are today. It made you successful at that college level. What made you successful at a pro, make you successful as a corporate exec.
Appreciate you for taking the time
Yeah,
out.
man, no
We're
problem.
gonna wrap it up, and that's it.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Appreciate you.